Midnight. As I finished my day's work and was about to wash up and go to bed, I received a text message from Drake Jeong. Working late tonight, won't be back. You should sleep early. This wasn't the first time he came home late, but it was the first time he greeted me. My cold heart warmed slightly. Just thinking about him still working overtime so late at night must be exhausting. So I immediately got up to cook him some porridge and side dishes, then took a taxi to deliver them to his office. Drake Jeong is the president of a listed company with a net worth of billions, usually too busy with work to come home often. Before he sent me this message, he hadn't come home to sleep for half a month straight. I am an independent illustrator who later gave up my career for marriage. Until half a month ago, a company in the industry approached me about collaborating on a project. Once the project succeeds, I'll receive a generous reward. I happily agreed and took the opportunity to invite Drake Jeong for a candlelit dinner to celebrate. But in the end, I waited at the restaurant until closing time without seeing him. So I couldn't help but call to complain. But unexpectedly, it was a woman who answered the phone. On the phone, the man's panting and the woman's moans intertwined, which was truly unpleasant to hear. No matter how unwilling I was to admit it, I had no choice but to accept one fact. The man's panting on the phone sounded exactly like my husband's voice. I took this phone recording and confronted Drake Jeong the next day, demanding an explanation. To my surprise, he didn't even bother pretending and outright admitted it was him. Because of this incident, I caused a scene at his company. In the end, Drake Jeong refused to see me or speak to me. And so, we were in a Cold War for half a month. Tonight, it was the first text message he sent me since our Cold War began half a month ago. Perhaps this was a sign that he wanted to make up, so my heart uncontrollably soared again. Since it was after work hours, I smoothly made my way to the CEO's office without any obstacles. Standing in front of the door, I straightened my clothes and prepared to knock. My raised hand hadn't even had time to fall. From inside the office came a woman's soft moans and a man's heavy panting. Amidst these intermittent sounds, I heard the woman's coquettish voice, "Who makes you feel better, me or her?" Followed immediately by continuous breathless moans. Finally, I heard the man's voice say, "In bed, Ivy, one can't compare to you." Hearing this, my suspended heart instantly died. Died cleanly, thoroughly. In the end, I didn't knock on that door and turned back home. Strangely, this time I was calmer than ever before. Normally, I would have done everything to break that door down and pulled the two apart like a madman. Then ended up screaming and asking Drake Jeong why he would do this to me. But today I suddenly lost the mood for it, accepting everything with eerie calmness, even strangely thinking, this has nothing to do with me. I poured the food into the trash can. In the middle of the night, half asleep, I felt someone pull me into their arms. My nose pressed against the man's broad, firm chest. His low voice lingered by my ear. "Sorry for keeping you waiting, I had to work late." The thought of him being entangled with another woman just moments ago made my skin crawl. So I pretended to turn over in my sleep, moving as far away from him as possible. The next morning, to my surprise, I saw Drake Jeong's figure in the kitchen when I woke up. He saw me getting up and brought over a plate of sandwiches. Drake Jeong, having been pampered since childhood, naturally couldn't cook, and the only thing he could manage was sandwiches. In the past, to encourage him, I would always finish the sandwiches he made and loudly praise them with exaggerated compliments. My husband's sandwiches are the most delicious in the world. But now I don't want to pretend anymore. So I let him handle it himself. Unexpectedly, he stood motionless at the kitchen door holding the sandwich. I found it a bit odd, but since I still had to discuss the collaboration with the client today, I didn't want to waste time with him. He hastily threw on a coat and headed out. Unexpectedly, he flung the plate and bread onto the floor, the glass shattering with a loud crash. Then he pulled me back and pinned me against the corner of the wall. His gaze turned completely icy. "What do you mean?" "What do I mean?" I almost couldn't hold back from cursing. "I don't want to play with you anymore, alright?" In the past, before he went to work, I would always act coquettishly, making him kiss me or else I wouldn't let him go. He always looked impatient. Now I don't cry or make a fuss, nor do I delay or disturb you. Shouldn't you be happy about that? I looked at him strangely. "I'm not hungry. Why do you insist on me eating? Also," I pointed at the clock on the wall, "you're going to be late for work." He backed me into a corner, staring at me intently, his eyes clouded with confusion. As if wondering why I was acting so unusually today. I let him look me over for 2 minutes, then pushed him away. My tone was indifferent. President Jiang, I'm going to be late for my client meeting. I majored in design in college. After marrying Drake Jiang, I voluntarily gave up my career to focus on homemaking and raising children. For 5 years of marriage, my entire life revolved around Drake Jiang. Every day I would think about what meals to cook for him, what clothes to buy him, and what to say to make him happy. I had no personal space of my own and no income. No wonder people look down on me like this. My client is a man 3 years older than me, who has a keen sense of the illustration market. He accidentally came across my old portfolio online and specifically invited me to collaborate on a new project. In the past, I would have thought this would take away time from being with Drake Jiang and would have refused without hesitation. But times have changed now. After the failure of my marriage, I must make a comeback in my career. The negotiation for cooperation went very well, and the client paid a deposit of $12,000 upfront. After sealing the deal, I accompanied the client to dinner. On my way to the restroom, I happened to see a man and a woman passionately kissing at the dimly lit end of the long corridor. The woman spotted me first and playfully feigned shyness, burying her face in the man's arms. Her voice was sugary sweet, drawing out the words "Brother Drake" in a long, coquettish tone. I remained silent, pretending not to see them, and walked past the pair with an expressionless face. Having drunk too much with clients earlier, my head was now throbbing and my mind foggy. I splashed some cold water on my face and my mind cleared considerably. It dawned on me belatedly that the male lead in the drama outside the door just now seemed to be Drake Jiang. He must be very pleased that his wife no longer made a scene as she used to, saving him from losing face in front of his little lover. I am also very happy. From tonight onward, I will no longer be a clinging vine dependent on anyone for growth, and my emotions will no longer fluctuate for anyone. I am just me. Coming out of the bathroom, I saw Drake Jiang but not Teslu. He was smoking, the ember at his fingertips casting a faint glow in the dim space. After a moment's thought, I greeted him politely. "Hey, President Jiang, you using the restroom too?" "President Jiang?" He murmured the words again, then stubbed out the cigarette between his fingers, pinned me against the wall, pressed my hands above my head and slowly leaned in closer. His voice was low and husky. "What's the fuss this time, huh?" With clear eyes, I retorted unhurriedly, "I've had an upset stomach these past few days. Usually your head is so full of shit it's clouded your vision. It's my fault for misjudging people. Today I've cleared everything out and finally see clearly whether the one standing before me is human or a dog." Drake Jiang thought I was throwing a tantrum, letting out a few low chuckles as he patted my head like I was a dog. And then, "What will you do now that you see clearly? Ivywan, you have no father or mother. What makes you think you can leave me?" Drake Jiang was right. I lost both parents at a young age and grew up relying on the kindness of others. Fortunately, I was a good student, and from elementary school onward, the school waived all my tuition and fees by default. In college, I relied on student loans for all 4 years. After graduation, because I had no income, it was Drake Jiang who repaid the loan for me. I sighed deeply and silently. Pulling my arm free from his grip, I took out my phone and transferred the advance payment from today's client to him. My total college loan was 32,000 yuan. "Here's 12,000, take it first. I'll pay you back the rest next month." As soon as I finished speaking, Drake Jiang's face visibly darkened. But I didn't have time to worry about his feelings right now. My client was getting impatient. So I hurriedly said goodbye and turned to leave. Drake Jiang and I are in a cold war again. But unlike before, I won't go chasing after him anymore. In the past, whenever Drake Jiang didn't reply to my messages or said something harsh to me, I would burst into tears, then frantically search for someone, followed by red-eyed interrogations with chat records in hand, and finally cling to him for kisses and hugs seeking reassurance. This cycle repeated itself hundreds of times. Putting myself in his shoes, if I were Drake Jiang, I'd be fed up too. Fortunately now, Drake Jiang has sailed past countless mountains, his light boat has traversed 10,000 peaks. He ignores me and I don't seek him out. Each of us is content, both happy in our own lives. I continue to focus on my career. The successful collaboration with my first client helped me build a considerable network. I opened my own studio, handling promotions and accepting commissions independently. There was a customer who was extremely picky and difficult, nitpicking every detail of the finalized draft. Hoping to resolve things amicably, I went to his studio to meet and discuss. Despite the scorching heat and an empty stomach, I waited from 1 p.m. until 8 p.m. In the end, all I got was a message saying, "I don't want the draft anymore," followed by being blocked. Overwhelmed with frustration and nowhere to vent, I bought a box of fried rice, sat on the roadside flower bed and ate while tears streamed down my face. Fortune never comes in pairs, but misfortune never comes alone. Tess Lu walked past me, arm in arm with Drake Jiang, carrying numerous bags in her hands. The two who had already walked by turned back for some unknown reason. They stood right in front of me. The first voice I heard was Tess Lu's sarcastic remark. "Oh Drake, how did your Ivy Wen end up in such a state?" I kept my head down, silently eating my fried rice. Drake Jiang crouched in front of me, his expression haughty, his eyes filled with mockery. "Ivy Wen, I told you you can't survive without me." I looked up at him through his eyes. I saw tears still lingering in my own eyes, my long hair disheveled, my eyes bloodshot. Even so, I didn't want to lose my composure in front of him. So I stubbornly threw out harsh words. "Just wait and see. Ever since I started my own studio, I haven't returned to Drake Jiang's villa. During the day I rush to meet deadlines at the studio and at night I sleep on the floor there. Through my persistent efforts, my studio has finally started to show a bit of progress. I transferred the remaining tens of thousands in student loan debt, including principal and interest, to Drake Jiang. Unexpectedly, not only did he not accept it, but he also sent me 500,000. Below it was a line of message. Take this money and treat yourself to something nice." The wealthy lady of the Jiang family sitting by the roadside eating at a cheap stall. What a disgraceful sight. I expressionlessly transferred the 500,000 back. He sent a question mark. "President Jiang, please note voluntary gift before transferring the money to me, otherwise it'll be difficult to divide the assets in case of divorce." He immediately followed up with, "No one would turn down money. Of course I am too. As the nominal wife of Drake Jiang, I know full well that if it ever comes to divorce and asset division, a weak and inexperienced person like me would be no match for the powerful legal team of the Jiang family. I might end up losing everything. So, while I still can, I need to build up my own financial foundation." With the 500,000, I immediately went to the bank to buy gold. My studio has gained some reputation and more clients are approaching me for collaborations. A gaming company reached out to me asking me to design character illustrations for their game, and they paid a 100,000 yuan deposit up front. I was secretly delighted, thinking this was a big opportunity. So I worked tirelessly day and night to complete the drafts. Finally, the day before the submission deadline, I handed the manuscript to the client. The client invited me to dinner. Overjoyed, I freshened up and arrived at the agreed location at the appointed time. But I never expected. The person in charge of the client's project turned out to be Tess Lu. At the large round table for 18, she sat at the head. Her fingers deftly twirled the wine glass, her words dripping with disdain. "Whose character design is this? It's so ugly. Is the account manager blind? Bringing such trash into the company." I sat by the door, silently eating my meal, but inside I was already seething with anger. The work I poured my heart into for half a month of sleepless nights meant nothing in the eyes of these high-ranking superiors. Someone eagerly forced a smile. It was my incompetence in handling the matter. After speaking, they turned back and angrily scolded, "Whoever found this client, go to HR later and resign on your own." The guy sitting next to me is the one they called incompetent. He clutched his wine glass tightly, veins bulging on the back of his hand. Just as I was about to say something, he stood up. He first punished himself with 3 glasses of wine, then humbly apologized. "Sorry, Sister Lu, it was my incompetence. But I still have mortgage and car loans to pay and my wife is still in postpartum confinement. Could you give me a chance?" Tess Lu curled her lips into a mocking smile. She walked over to the young man, slowly placing her hand on his shoulder while sweeping her gaze over me, her eyes curved in a seductive smile. Her voice was soft, yet it sent chills down the spine, like the cold, slippery hiss of a venomous snake whispering in one's ear. "Do you think your Ivy Wen, whose trash work still gets covered by CO Jiang? You mess things up and still expect the company to give you another chance. Why should they?" At this point her tone took a sharp turn, her delicate features hardening with ruthlessness. Or you could jump from here. The company might consider giving your family a substantial compensation. The young man slowly, incredulously raised his head, locking eyes with Teslu. Perhaps he couldn't believe that after 10 years of slaving away for the company, all he got in return was his boss telling him to drop dead. No one at the table dared to speak up. They all knew about Teslu's relationship with President Jiang. No one would risk offending a top executive for the sake of an insignificant employee. In the tense atmosphere, Teslu suddenly laughed, like a crimson flower bursting open, dripping with bright red blood. Or you could kneel and beg me. Oh, of course, crawling between my legs would work too. Perhaps I could spare you a place. Teslu is trying to intimidate me. She knows that as long as I don't divorce Drake Jiang, she can never openly touch me. So she chose this way to humiliate me. The young man's face flushed red, the corners of his eyes also turning crimson. His fingers clenched tightly into fists, as if he was undergoing an extremely intense internal struggle. I averted my gaze from the young man. Picking up the wine glass on the table, I pulled Teslu over. Pour it down with a backhand. Eyes locked, I gave a cold smirk. Teslu, you're just a dog raised by Drake Jiang. Really think you're the master now? In the silent private room, a crisp sound of applause suddenly came from the doorway. Clap, clap, clap. As the applause faded, a large group of people in the room stood up in unison. They bowed respectfully, bending at the waist and nodding their heads. President Jiang, when Teslu saw Drake Jiang, it was as if she had spotted a savior. She bypassed me, took a step to Drake Jiang's side, and snuggled into his arms as if boneless, coquettishly acting spoiled. With such a girlish demeanor, who could connect her to the venomous woman from just moments ago? I sighed inwardly. I never had acting skills as good as Teslu's, otherwise Drake Jiang wouldn't have despised me to this extent. I handed the paper to the guy, having accidentally splashed some wine on him earlier. Are you okay? The young man lowered his head and kept retreating, saying, Mrs. Wen, please don't make things difficult for us working-class folks with the games you rich play among yourselves. The private room fell into silence as everyone quietly watched the interaction between the young man and me. Pretending to be completely unaware, I firmly pulled the young man over and wiped the wine stains off his clothes for him. There's no need to be so submissive. I see you have great talent and, more importantly, good judgment. If you don't mind, you can come to my studio. I'll take care of you. I won't make things difficult for you, nor will I withhold your salary. Since I was standing with my back to Drake Jiang, I completely missed how his face darkened to the color of liver after I said those words. No one else in the private room dared to even breathe loudly. Even Teslu, sensing the icy aura around Drake Jiang, slowly straightened up, not daring to be presumptuous anymore. The young man, seeing the look in Drake Jiang's eyes, stood trembling in place, too scared to move. After wiping the stain off for him, I turned around to see Drake Jiang staring at me intently. I pretended to be surprised and clapped my hands. President Jiang, what brings you here? Oh my, please have a seat, have a seat. I pulled him onto the chair to sit down. For an investment project worth hundreds of thousands, you actually took the trouble to come in person. Thank you for your hard work. Standing close, I could hear Drake Jiang grinding his molars with a loud crunch. The voice almost slipped out from the depths of the throat. Ivy Wen. I pretended to pour him a drink, deliberately spilling it on him. Then I pretended to wipe his suit, intentionally tearing his sleeve. Drake Jiang's eyes were practically murderous. The last time after I messed up his hairstyle, he finally couldn't hold back and yelled, "Have you fucking had enough?" Not enough. His words fueled my anger and I stiffened my neck to argue with him. It was your people who belittled my work first and insulted me afterward. Did I not communicate with you during the drawing process? Why do you act so superior, dismissing my hard work with a single sentence and trampling on the colleague who worked with me? If you want to play with Teslu, give her billion-dollar projects for all I care, just don't fucking drag me into it, okay? I've had enough, Drake Jiang. I pulled the divorce papers I always carried with me from my bag and threw them in his face. Let's get divorced. In the past, I wouldn't have dared to confront Drake Jiang so recklessly. I saw him as my god, as my salvation. I don't want the gods to leave me, so I tread carefully, throwing tantrums and making scenes to keep them by my side. But now I'm tired. I don't want to play anymore. I want to escape the gods, to become an ordinary person. I want myself. To have no more weaknesses. Publicly defying Drake Jeong led to a truly disgraceful outcome. I was imprisoned by him. He destroyed my career, hired people to smash my studio, cut off my internet, deleted my portfolio, put the electronic ankle monitor on me and confined me to my home. I sat on the bed, sneering at Drake Jeong, who was seated on the sofa. "Is this all you've got, President Jeong?" He remained silent, leaning against the headboard reading a book, his long raven feather-like eyelashes lowered attentively. It's undeniable that Drake Jeong is handsome with delicate features, standing at 188 centimeters tall, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. It was this very appearance that clouded my judgment during my freshman year. I pursued him relentlessly for 4 years. As graduation approached, exhausted from the chase, I was ready to give up. Yet he came knocking on my door on a rainy day, kissing me fiercely in the pouring rain. "Ivy, who gave you the right to chase me when you wanted and stop when you felt like it? What do you take me, Drake Jeong, for?" And just like that, we were together. Everyone envied Ivy from the art school for winning over Drake Jeong, the heartthrob of the business school. But they didn't know. The night Drake Jeong confessed his love, his mistress Tes-Lu left the country. He confessed his love to me out of revenge, out of venting. In the years that followed, although Drake Jeong married me, he remained indifferent. Only in bed did he exert himself. Until 3 months ago, when Tes-Lu returned to the country, Drake Jeong completely changed toward me. I don't want to look back on the past. I let my legs dangle, the electronic ankle monitor burning hot around my foot. "Drake Jeong, you say you're tired of me, so why won't you let me go?" Drake Jeong wore gold-rimmed glasses, looking all prim and proper. He just kept his head down reading the newspaper, his tone indifferent. "You're mine in life and in death." He paused, then said, "You'll die on this bed too." Hearing this, I knew convincing Drake Jeong to let me go was out of the question. So I stopped wasting my energy. With a turn, I threw off the covers and went to sleep. In the following days, Drake Jeong watched over me almost without leaving my side. One afternoon, Drake Jeong was called away by an unexpected phone call. I was just about to put my grand escape plan into action. I never expected to open the door and immediately run into Tes-Lu. I slammed the door shut again with a bang. Tes-Lu was so angry she stomped her feet outside. "If you've got the guts, come out and face me. Hiding inside doesn't make you a hero. Ivy, I advise you not to entertain any devious thoughts. Brother Drake's heart has always been with me. Ivy, you're just a coward. Spineless. You." I swung the door open with a bang and the person outside instantly fell silent. "Want to put on an act with me? If we succeed, I'll personally hand you my divorce certificate." The Jeong family villa caught fire. Flames and thick smoke billowed into the sky, leaving behind a pungent, choking odor wherever the fire spread. Amidst a series of muffled explosions, the piercing wails of sirens cut through the air. Outside, the area was swarmed with police cars, fire trucks and ambulances. Yet inside the house, apart from the crackling of flames, there was no other sound. The silence was almost eerie. A stretch Porsche screeched to a halt outside the villa, and a figure in black hurriedly stepped out, exuding a disheveled air. Not long after, the villa door was slammed open. Tes-Lu collapsed on the stairs unconscious. Drake Jeong rushed in, surrounded by thick, billowing black smoke. A flicker of confusion crossed his eyes, as if wondering why Tes-Lu was here. But the current situation left no room for thought. He scooped Tes-Lu up in his arms and turned to leave. I, who had been standing in the corner all along, suddenly spoke up. "Drake Jeong." The man froze in place, then slowly, incredulously turned his head. I was clad in a white dress, the flames repeatedly licking at its hem. Even surrounded by flames in a life-or-death situation, I neither cried nor made a fuss, only smiling quietly. "Drake Jeong, goodbye." His expression froze on his face, as if struck by some indescribable emotion. His gaze gradually grew uneasy, panicked, as if guessing what I would do next, stretching out his arm desperately to grab me. I dodged his hand, turned around and pushed both of them out the door, locking the villa. Amid the billowing black smoke, scorching waves of heat surged forth like a tidal force. The shackles around my ankles, scorched by the flames, automatically released. Finally, I pushed open the back door just before the first explosion. A blast of heat knocked me onto the grass in the backyard. The sky was shrouded in thick haze, dim and flickering with intermittent red and blue lights. In front of the fiercely burning villa, a dark figure broke free from the police's restraint and desperately rushed toward the door. I walked away without looking back. After escaping Drake Jiang, I was completely free. I moved to another city, changed my name, registered a new studio and started taking orders from scratch. Occasionally, news about the Jiang family in City A would appear on TV, but Drake Jiang, who used to love being in the spotlight, never showed up again. My studio's reputation is growing, and more companies are extending olive branches to me. I turn them all down. Once I join a company, I'll be at the mercy of my superiors, and it's inevitable that I'll cross paths with the Jiang group again. And right now, I don't want to have any connection with Drake Jiang. At a business dinner, someone inadvertently brought up Drake Jiang. After the villa fire, I heard the young master of the Jiang family, Drake Jiang, has been bedridden with illness. Oh, it seems his wife died in that fire. Rumor has it that Mr. Jiang never liked his wife anyway. Her death must have been quite convenient. Who knows? The girl next to me kept glancing at me repeatedly with a strange expression. I couldn't help but ask a few more questions. She suddenly said, "Has anyone ever told you that you look very much like Chairman Jiang's first wife?" At that moment I was engrossed in peeling shrimp. Upon hearing this, I calmly wiped my hands. My expression remained composed and indifferent. Is that so? President Jiang is truly outstanding. I dare not presume to reach so high. The client we're collaborating with is new to this city and doesn't know the way. I went to the airport to wait for her. In the bustling waiting hall, a procession emerged grandly from the VIP passage amidst the crowd. A group of tall, burly security guards surrounded a young man and woman. The man was dressed in a suit, his features calm and indifferent. Sharp-eyed reporters spotted them and eagerly swarmed over with gossipy enthusiasm. President Jiang, regarding this investment in City B, what unique perspectives and insights has your years of business experience brought to the table? Are there any particular life lessons or experiences you'd be willing to share with others? President Jiang, we heard your wife recently died in a fire. Why has there been no news of her burial? President Jiang, please respond. The man addressed as President Jiang remained silent throughout, his sharply defined profile exuding an air of detachment and indifference. I glanced briefly before looking away. Amid the bustling crowd, I spotted the client from afar. Pushing through the throng, I ran toward her. The client's enthusiasm took me by surprise. While still at a distance, she shouted at the top of her lungs, "Wen Yan!" At that moment, I suddenly felt a gaze from behind fixed intently on this spot. The gaze was scorching, as if trying to see right through me. With a quick sidestep, I melted into the surging crowd, not daring to breathe. The client for this collaboration was Ely, a competitor of the Jiang family in City A, developing. My reputation in the industry kept growing, and clients were offering higher prices. After completing this order, I did a rough calculation and realized my savings were almost enough to buy a house in this city. Of course, I also brought along the gold I had purchased earlier. Life is getting better and better. I met Drake Jiang again at Ely's victory celebration. The game they launched received countless praises upon release, instantly becoming the talk of the town and even overshadowing their competitors. Of course, the female protagonist's character design also garnered much acclaim. The project department manager specially invited me to attend. After several rounds of drinks, a middle-aged man hurried in from outside, his forehead glistening with sweat. "President Jiang is here," he whispered into the manager's ear. A look of shock flashed across the manager's face, but before he could prepare to greet the guest, the private room door was rudely pushed open. The waiter tried to intercept while walking. "Sir, this is a private room, you can't enter." "Sir," Drake Jiang strode in with his hands in his pockets, wearing a foul expression and looking like an arrogant jerk. The bodyguard stopped the waiter behind him. The manager quickly stood up to exchange pleasantries. Unexpectedly, Drake Jiang didn't even glance at him and walked straight to my side. He looked down at me with an arrogant expression in his eyes. A mocking smile tugged at the corner of his lips. "Is this your illustrator?" The person in charge seemed momentarily unsure of his temperament, not understanding the meaning behind his question, and thus dared not respond. Ely Company is struggling, not only failing to support the project, even the little employee they found is a piece of trash. His smile didn't reach his eyes and he emphasized the last two words heavily. At this point, not only did the person in charge fail to maintain their composure, but everyone present also began to offer awkward, appeasing smiles. I stood up expressionlessly and splashed the wine in his face with a backhand motion. Mind your own business. With that one cup of wine I poured, the gazes of everyone at the table shifted from awkwardness to shock. I calmly wiped my hands with a tissue, automatically tuning out all the onlookers' stares, those filled with schadenfreude, ill intentions or sheer surprise. Waiter, see the guest out. Drake Zhang's face darkened completely. He dragged me into a pitch-black alley, his tall figure looming over me. Bending down to look at me, his gaze was uncharacteristically serious. Why set the villa on fire? I rolled my eyes dramatically. Mr. Jiang traveled all this way just to disrupt a drinking party and then drag me aside to ask why? Rumors say Mr. Jiang's time is worth a fortune. It seems it's not allowed. He completely lost his patience, his brows furrowed in suppressed anger as he grabbed my arm. Come back with me. I forcefully shook off his grip. President Jiang, there's only one reason that could make me go back. What? To get a divorce certificate. He knew I was serious this time. For the first time, a crack appeared on his always proud face. Why? He was puzzled. The woman who had been clinging to him desperately just the day before had suddenly changed her attitude overnight. She would rather die than stay by his side. The young master of the Jiang family, proud and arrogant, never considered things from others' perspectives. I took a deep breath and decided to show one last act of kindness, answering him for free. President Jiang, I've been with you for 5 years and you've never treated me as a human being. After Tess Lu returned to the country, it only got worse. You wouldn't remember your wife staying up late at home waiting for you to return. You wouldn't consider how your wife would feel if you were with another woman either. That night when you said you were working overtime, I brought you food only to hear the sounds of you enjoying yourself with another woman. You even arrogantly and tyrannically destroyed my career. Drake Jiang, I know you don't like me. It was you who sued for divorce, it was you who proposed marriage, I never held a knife to your throat and forced you. Yet you never fulfilled your duties as a husband. Back then I made a scene because I loved you, but you couldn't give me a sense of security. Later I came to understand. I don't like you anymore, Drake Jiang. Drake Jiang and I have switched attitudes. He started waiting for me downstairs just to bring me breakfast. During a heavy rainstorm I was working overtime without an umbrella, so he sat in the office building with an umbrella, waiting until dark. I flashed a big smile at the campus heartthrob, and he instinctively bristled with anger, but upon seeing my demeanor, his expression quickly turned cautious. I sat by the roadside eating a jianbing guizi and he joined me, sitting on the ground to share the meal. He lived in constant fear, terrified that I might utter the word divorce again. But my love for him had long been eroded by day after day of disappointment. What he's doing now is no different from a moth flying into the flame. Jiang Group has newly developed a game. But this project has been completely outmatched by Ely Company, struggling to gain traction. They want to acquire competing games from Ely Company in the market. But the condition they set was that President Jiang had to go in person for the negotiations. At Jiang Corporation, all the employees knew full well that President Jiang had abandoned his career for love, busy chasing after his wife, so no one dared to disturb him. An employee contacted me asking me to persuade Drake Jiang. So during a dinner I urged him to go back, telling him not to waste his time with me. He ate his meal in silence, head bowed. The once domineering President Jiang had vanished. Now he was always quiet around me, afraid that any word might upset me. After you've sorted out your company matters, I'll come find you. His head snapped up in an instant, an unusual joy clouding his eyes. I pretended not to see, picked up a piece of potato with my chopsticks, and slowly chewed and swallowed it before speaking calmly. Go back and get the divorce. The light in his eyes vanished in an instant, the hope in his gaze gradually shattering into fragments. Drake Jiang had barely left when Tess Lu came knocking at the door. She brought a group of helpers and kidnapped me to an abandoned factory in the suburbs. They pinned me to the ground and stomped hard on my face. The pain made me grimace in agony. Ivywan, you filthy slut. What acting, what golden cicada shedding its shell, all just excuses. Even staying in another city, you can't behave, full of fox-like charm, luring Drake from thousands of miles away. I originally thought of letting you off. But judging from Drake's words and actions these past few months, he loves you deeply. Then you don't need to anymore. Teslu plans to starve me to death. She tied me up and threw me in a corner. Two tall and burly men were staring at me. At midnight, the two big men were still whispering to each other. Sister Lu is truly ruthless. She plans to ruin this woman first, then go after Drake Jiang. Someone asked, "What's the word?" "Should keep it down." I heard that Sister Lu tampered with Drake Jiang's car. The moment he drives it one day, it'll go out of control and catch fire. The handbrake is broken too. Yikes, didn't she like Drake Jiang? How could she be so ruthless? "If I can't have it, I'll destroy it," the man said. You know how haggard Drake Jiang looked during those days when the original Mrs. Wen went missing. Our Sister Lu isn't a fool either. Knowing she can't keep this man's heart, she's decided to ruin everything together. I heard that Drake Jiang is attending some business meeting tomorrow. That fool has no idea Sister Lu has planted someone in that meeting too. Drake Jiang, there's no escape now. I curled up in the corner pretending to be fast asleep, but in reality, I heard every word the two of them said. A little while later, when the two were sound asleep, I secretly used a piece of glass from the corner to slowly cut through the ropes. I hunched over and ran out. Teslu was too busy dealing with Drake Jiang to leave many people with me. She thought I couldn't stir up any trouble. She's always underestimated me like this. I fled overnight and bought a plane ticket back to City A. Drake Jiang has only one recent business meeting, which is the negotiation with the competing company Eli Jingpin. Covered in dust with disheveled hair, the taxi driver gave me a strange look. I've always had bad luck and this time was no exception. When I finally arrived at the company building, the security guard stopped me, mistaking me for a salesperson. After finally getting past the security guard, I rushed into the office area and looked around, but there was no sign of Drake Jiang. So I grabbed a passerby and asked, "Where is your President Jiang's most recent meeting?" He didn't answer, just stared at me with a shocked expression as if looking at a madman. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to calm down. "I didn't bring my phone. Call the police now, your general manager Jiang is in danger." Unable to get an answer and with no time to explain further, I began searching floor by floor. Suddenly, a piercing scream came from the elevator area, quickly drowned out by the sounds of a panicked crowd. "He's bleeding. Where are the security guards? Call an ambulance, quick." Frantic shouts and chaotic footsteps intertwined, emitting a cacophony of harsh noises. The world spun around me, my blood vessels frozen as if I'd fallen into an ice cellar. I stood rigidly in place, not daring to move forward, until someone tapped me on the back. After what felt like an eternity, I slowly, stiffly turned my head as if waking from a dream. The first thing that caught my eye was Drake Jiang's enlarged face, currently frowning at me with his handsome brows. "How did you end up here?" I didn't respond for a long time. After what felt like an eternity, my stiff eyes finally moved and tears began to fall. "Drake Jiang, you're okay." That's such a relief. The person who fell was Teslu, and the perpetrator was the young man she had insulted at the previous dinner gathering. Teslu had planned everything meticulously, never expecting to be defeated by an ordinary person in the end. The police arrived to take him away, along with those who were preparing to assassinate Drake Jiang. Before being taken away, the young man made a special trip to find me. He bowed deeply. "I'm very grateful to Ms. Wen for standing up for me at that time. If there's still a chance, I'd like to join your studio after I get out." I opened my arms wide, a radiant smile blooming across my face. "You're always welcome." I won't ask him about his motive for the crime. Those in high positions will never understand the suffering of people at the bottom. Nor would they ever expect that the common people they casually trample upon might one day nearly take their lives. Teslu was taken away, and Drake Jiang's reaction was unexpectedly calm. I was curious, "Don't you like her? Why didn't you help her at the time?" He glanced at me with a somewhat speechless expression. "Wen, I never liked Teslu." I sneered sarcastically, "You men are all bizarre, capable of sleeping with women you don't even like." He shrugged indifferently. "Before that fire, I wasn't sure about my feelings for you. Wen, you can't expect a powerful, wealthy man to refrain from touching other women before falling in love with one." "True," I nodded. "I won't force you." Placing the divorce agreement on his desk, I tapped my finger on the signature line, signaling for him to sign. He looked at me, confusion swirling in his eyes. Ivywood, your reaction just now tells me you still care about me. I pulled out a pen and set it on the table. I respect every life. Sign it, President Jiang. What if I refuse? I suddenly raised my eyes and uttered a threat. I'll make sure you can never find me again. Drake Jiang left me 2 properties and enough wealth to live comfortably for the rest of my life. I carefully folded the divorce agreement and placed it gently in my pocket. This was the freedom I had longed for. Before leaving, Drake Jiang called out to me again, hesitating for a long time before speaking. Can I still come to see you in the future? I turned around and flashed a standard professional smile. You know the address of my studio. President Jiang is always welcome to visit. With that, I walked out of the corporate building without looking back. The intense sunlight poured down and I raised my hand to shield my forehead, feeling an unfamiliar lightness in my heart. A caged bird will eventually fly toward the free sky.